We'll call to order the Parks and Recreation February 2025 meeting. Roll call. Mr. Neese, can you do the roll call for us, please? Here? Here.
Here.
I'm sorry, I did all that and I wasn't on, so. Everyone's here except for Mr. Campbell. Not your brother, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Agenda or moment of silence. Please remember the folks in North Philly who's the airplane crash. Thoughts. And we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda item 4.1, consider approving the agenda. Do we have a motion
Move to approve.
and a second?
Second.
Motion was made by member Foy and seconded by member Venicola. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 5, public comment for agenda items only. There are no public folks here. Item 6.1, consider approving the minutes from the January 9, 2025 reorg meeting. Do we have a motion
Move to approve.
and a second? Second. Motion was made by member Foy and seconded by member Lake. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Oh, here's Joe. Joe, I wonder if he's at the door. I'll go get it. And reports, I guess, should we start with those, Steve? Do you have,
I will try to give you the report.
Okay.
So we have been going back and forth with the design for the field out here for Gable Field, related to what the lines would be. And I think we finally landed on what will work well, hopefully. So we're going to take the field and yeah, there we go. We got a design. So you're going to see not only the baseball field that has been there in the past, but we've also added the softball field over towards the side where the trail is. And then in between the two, we've put in the soccer field as requested by the soccer groups. So we're pretty excited about this. We think it actually makes it a really functional field. It actually can be used by 3 different types of sports going on. Obviously not all at the same time, but it can be used for 3 different sports. We tried to get the lines to be so that they were as few as possible. And so we kind of doubled up, as you'll see, like on the softball, the foul lines also serve as the sideline and the back line for the soccer field. So that was all trying to limit the number of lines, but still get as much on there as we possibly could. My understanding is that the soccer field will not necessarily stand out as much. It probably stands out more as you see it here than it will when it's actually on the ground in that way. But anyway, we're excited about that. The netting along what's now the outfield side that goes along Ellis Avenue will all be replaced. In addition to that, netting will be installed down along the backside of on the trail, so that the trail will actually now you won't be able to walk from the trail right into the field. You'll actually there'll be netting there. The fence that goes along the first base side of the softball field will be raised so that it's the same height as the baseball on the other end. And then there'll be a spot that drops down in between. But again, the idea allowing softball and baseball to both still be played there and be used. A lot of the fence will be updated and replaced in that process. So I think we're going to end up with a really nice product at the end. One of the things that we are going to do is actually create gates to get into the field. One of the challenges we have now is we have people that walk their dogs on the field. We have people that ride their bikes on the field. We have people that actually bring over like ATVs and ride on it. You know, so we are going to make it a little bit more difficult, and then we're going to sign it appropriately to make sure that that kind of stops, because it really does impact the field. And so that's the plan, and that's where we're moving forward. My understanding is they hope to start on this pretty soon, like within the next couple of weeks, hopefully if weather permits, because they would like to get it done so that we can be ready for spring ball and those kind of things. That the challenge is it's very few times of the year that it's not used. And when it's not used, it's usually because the weather is the reason why it's not used. And so it's trying to figure out how to do it so that we have the least impact on our sports as we possibly can. But it's a pretty big project. There's a full stormwater system underneath, and they're going to make sure that that's all intact and do a few minor changes to that as part of the project to make sure that it's still functioning well, and then move forward. So that's the project. Yeah, I think it's a great project for the township. The field probably has needed to be replaced for about 5 years. We've tried to drag it out as long as we can just because it's so incredibly expensive.
Yes.
This project's about $650,000. And we looked into replacing it with an actual turf field, like a green grass turf field. It was going to cost almost that amount of money to do that. And the upkeep every year was greater to maintain the grass field. So we felt like this was probably the best way to go back and still do. These fields last about 10 years, a little over. So, you know, it's still a pretty expensive proposition to, you know, maintain this, but that's the goal.
So there was a gentleman that spoke at one of the supervisors meetings that I attended, and he reached out. He had some concerns that the soccer field was not the configuration it would need to be to satisfy all of the soccer leagues.
Yeah, so this was hard because you've got soccer leagues that play with 7 players. You've got soccer leagues that play with 9 players, and I think you have some that play with 11 players. So and they're different fields for each one. So we met with the soccer leagues and asked them to tell us what would be the most usable field, and this is what they gave us.
Okay.
We picked, this field is based off of meeting with those folks.
Okay.
We tried to meet with the lacrosse folks and try to figure out, but that's just enough different that, and it didn't match anything that was for the soccer group. It was like, but they said they could play on this if they had to, but it wouldn't be a true lacrosse field. So, you know, I suspect you're still going to see girls out here with their field hockey stuff, which we've seen from time to time. You know, I think there'll be other groups out here. I think you'll see potentially the kids, the younger soccer kids will still play double fielded out here. I think they'll just put cones up and do it, but it's a challenge because there's so many different sized fields based on the number of players, and we came back, we said, whatever you think is the best one, we'll try to accommodate, and this is what we could accommodate.
I
And
have a question.
go ahead.
Will ultimate Frisbee teams be able to play on this?
Absolutely not. No.
Well, I wasn't planning on coming out.
No, I don't know why not. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
the biggest
We're just
issue would
playing
be,
disc golf, sort of.
yeah, the issue would probably be more, what we could set up on the field
Yeah.
for that,
Right.
you know, but the fields will use for a lot of things other than just sporting events. The library uses it for some of their science projects that they do with the kids and things like that. So, and we don't want to stop that. We just want to make sure it's protected where we can.
We could have disc golf set up over there
Yeah.
without the concert.
So who reserves it? Richie now? Should we,
Richie now is the one that reserves it.
Okay.
We did that once we started letting the field be used by them, we gave, for all pieces, it had to go through Rich.
Which is probably the best thing.
Because if not, we would be letting it go and it would be confusing. So
Yeah.
Rich takes the lead on that and we let him do that.
He does a wonderful job.
Yes.
Yes, he does, absolutely.
Any other discussion on Gable Turf Field? New business, item 8.1, discussion and possible action about Parks and Recreation.
Just
Commission.
so, I don't recall if we actually said on the record that Joe had arrived, so I just
Oh,
would
okay.
just make note that Joe is here and I made note on the sheet.
Member Joe Canturbone is in house.
In the house.
So item 8.1, discussion and possible action about Parks and Recreation mission and vision statement. So the mission and vision statement is just a guide for us, and I don't know if anybody's had a chance to review it or if they have any comments, questions, concerns, or want to change it in any way. But the reason I actually put it on was the last item on the values, goals, and objectives. The last item is ensure that our parks meet current demand without jeopardizing their sustainability for future generations' use. So I started looking at inclusive playgrounds in the area, Havertown, and just some other ones, reading up on them, and I actually visited the one over in Havertown. And the maintenance involved with that playground is just insane. They have, 50 people come out, they paint every year. They use landscape type of wood instead of actual stuff you would buy off the shelf. It's sustainable. So the maintenance involved is just crazy. And the space that's involved is tremendous. So the cost to maintain it really, something that we would need to consider, because it might take away a lot of resources that we could use in other parks. So when we do finally get there and start making recommendations on what we should do there, I think we need to keep that in mind. I'm going to keep visiting some of these places. So I think if we did smaller things that didn't require the ground, the material that's used on the ground for the inclusive playground is quite expensive, and it does require maintenance. So
Veterans Park has the pour in place, sort of like the foam, and that's more an inclusive setting, but they're closed a lot for maintenance and They close down a lot for that, so,
I have seen, yeah, they don't, Neighborhood Watch,
Very
wherever
expensive.
yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's just something that we would all need to consider when we finally get there. So, I don't know if you guys can have a chance to do some research or visit some playgrounds, just, maybe we could reach out to some of these playgrounds and say which features require the least amount of maintenance, which ones are used the most, that kind of stuff, so that when we do get there, we can have some good recommendations and reasons why. So that's the only reason I added that, but if anybody wanted to make any changes to the vision statement or mission statement, goals and objectives, we could, add it to the agenda next month, but I just wanted to discuss that part of it tonight. Not on there. Yeah. You got tree, Phil. Yeah. So if the mission statement was attached to the agenda for tonight. So if there's no further discussion. It's not on there either, Pete. It's on the attachment. Okay, item 9.1, discussion and possible action regarding or action about family and community events for 2025. So I know that I missed that the January meeting.
We had a pretty extensive list on the January minutes. Thinking about the events that we did in 2024 that we would like to repeat that were successful. And then a few potential ideas for 2025.
Peter did get me the list. However, it's in I didn't have, little haphazard getting here. So I do have the list and I did start going through it and I'm going to start, jumping on the things that were on there. And specifically the rock snake at Newbie Park. I think that's going to be one of our first events. Right. And then is there anything else that was upcoming?
I'm gonna pull it up because there's a lot.
Apologize. Hectic month for me.
Hey,
Yeah, sure.
Hey.
I found someone's wallet. Thank you, I'm so sorry.
thank you.
And I thank you.
The police will deal with that tomorrow.
No,
No problem. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We're Parks and
Yeah.
Rec.
You
Thank
too.
you. Yes, I was gonna actually try and find some type of sponsor, I think, for the Rock Snake. Since we're not gonna be doing the concerts, we do have the fall. festival.
We had said like April, May would be our target. For the Newbie Park event with the
Okay.
rock snake.
Didn't we talk about doing
We talked about a May high school jazz band.
over at Drexel?
Mhm. And one act play, maybe.
Yes, so I think Rose did reach out. We haven't heard back from the folks over there at the high school.
again.
Yeah, well. When was that, Caitlin? I'm sorry.
May.
May.
I mean, we didn't vote on any of these dates. We were just trying to hone in on a time. We talked about, try to do this in order here. The CRC and DCVA cleanups are usually April, May
Yeah.
also.
Yep.
And that's more of just a supporting their events that they already coordinate.
So Sheila from Environmental Advisory Council is going to generate a poster for us and put it, send it out through the township's websites. That's the Drexel Lodge Park annual stream cleanup that we do. And that's a good one. You know, some of these, and then the DCVA does Brookside and Rear Park, which we've been doing. So there hasn't been as much trash because we have been doing it so often and.
Right.
But, you know, it's just good to have the neighbors come out and see the park. So you know, it's always discussed maybe canceling this year's, but I think maybe we'll just have it anyway and we'll talk to Shade Tree Commission about possibly using it for plant a few trees as well, maybe a beautification.
Yeah.
Right.
The rain garden at Drexel Lodge Park, we cleaned that up. That's added to the
Cindy Mahalo doing the garden
the
right
rain gardens.
out here.
Well, we're trying to, yeah, but
Judith and I helped her.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. I can't wait to get outside.
right. So, I'll reach out to DCVA. They did send something over already. I haven't filled out the form for it yet, but so we'll add that to the agenda, next month, the exact, date and time. Because they give you a month and you select the date and then they kind of tell you if you're in there or not.
We had talked about summer reading series. Mid-September Family Fun Fest. And then in October, we have a few collaborations. One's with the Historical Society for the pumpkin carving. And then the second collaboration is with the Firehouse. They have a trunk or treat. We also talked about a movie in the park, maybe drive-in.
Yes.
But we
yes.
didn't hone in on like a month or anything.
So, I did reach out. So there's several ways you can do it. You can you can get the whole thing where they bring everything in themselves.
Projector and-
And they get the licensing and everything else. Or we buy a projector and a screen. And then you get a license for the films and the films, I think they were like $1,200. No, maybe that was for 3 series. I think it was like $400.
I recall 400.
Yeah, $400 for each movie. And if you're gonna buy a projector and screen, you'd probably want to do 3 showings to try and break even. Point. So I'm not sure which way we would want to go. I will get some better numbers on the outside firms. It was equivalent, you know, I did a cursory look at some folks. And it was equivalent, whether we do 3 shows ourselves or have someone come in and do 1. So I'll get some more definitive numbers and have them available for next month's meeting and we can perhaps vote on it at that point.
Do we have that in the budget? Is that?
I think we asked for, I think we did ask for that.
What is our budget, just out of curiosity?
That I'm,
Or is
I'd
that
have to
pretty-
go back and look. It's over multiple lines, so I could just give it off the top of my head. I don't really know. But I can pull that.
and we were pretty general with, you know, community events,
Mhm.
upgrades
we-
to the park.
We had to make some cuts, but we tried to keep it as minimal as possible, but we did several of the committees actually did lose some dollars this year just because of how much we were having to cut out of the budget.
Thanks.
I selection of movie options.
There is, yeah, I mean, it is varied. But I think our target audience would be families. We seem to really make out well with
Mhm.
family events. So I think kids ages from 2 to 12 we could still, we could capture that. I don't know what you're
Like the
closer
poll.
to that stuff than I am at this point in my life. So
Yeah,
what do you
it's
think, Joe?
It's actually tough to figure out those movies that'll pay attention to 12-year-old and a 5-year-old. To really, it's not an easy thing to really do. Here, once we see the options.
Do they have like catalogs of movies that you could look
There's
at?
listings, yeah.
Yeah, listings of what age is appropriate.
Right.
And it's like the newer movies that the kids have seen, or would you rather do an older movie that?
And there were, like, the movies that were in the theaters were actually available.
Really?
Yeah, the new Minions movie that just came out, that one was there, and there were a few others, the Emotion movie.
Inside Out.
Yeah, that one, which, yeah. So can I send out the information to the
Yeah,
committee?
look,
With
yeah, we
reference?
talked about this, just, for those that weren't able to attend the meeting we had for committee orientation. You can send information to each other, you just can't discuss it. So if you're gonna send, like, if you get information about, like, here are the movies that we could consider, that's great. You can send it to you, but then you can't, as a group, start talking about which movie you want to pick.
Right.
That would need to be picked here
Back here.
in this meeting at a public meeting.
Okay.
So
Save
But
all feedback.
sharing the information is not a problem.
But talking about it is.
Talking about it is, yeah. Particularly if 3 of you are doing it,
Yeah.
because then you have a quorum and that becomes an issue. So,
Good meeting, it was a good meeting.
So I'll send out, there was one place that was very professional and, had a wide variety. So I'll just send out their information and we can discuss it in March meeting. And I guess we'll have to figure out a time as well, because we want it to be too hot or too cold, or, there's gonna be mosquitoes, it's gonna be dark at night. There are some other things to consider. In July, I guess, the longest day of the year, right? Or, no, it's June, right? June.
They only do movie options, or do they have anything like sporting events available that they would, that option out there?
You mean like a Phillies game or
Like that, yeah.
online or? I think that there actually were. I
I don't know how the
mention it.
licensing for that works. Would probably be, especially if you did like an Eagles game.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, yeah.
That's fun, yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Just stream it,
Yeah.
have the whole town come out.
Taylor
have a big
Swift
party.
Eras Tour.
It's a great idea.
It is, yeah. And now that you say that, I think that there was something mentioned in when I was researching it. If we have the equipment. And so I guess we're gonna need you and George to kind of guide us on what, which route we should go with this as well.
yeah, I mean, obviously, if you think this would become something that you're going to want to do year after year after year, then getting the equipment may be the way to go. If you think it's a one-time thing, making investment in equipment may not be the best way to go, right? But if you think that, the question is, if we get the equipment, like if you do it and you bring a group in who provides everything, do they bring in a system that's enough better than what you could get yourself to do? Sound, those kind of things. Those are the questions you have to kind of ask, because, it's not a great thing if you could show the movie, but nobody can hear it. Or, the sound is so distorted because we're having to push so much volume through the system because the system's not decent enough, you know? So you got to figure out, does that make sense or not? And so, and how big of a group you're trying to do it for. Obviously, if you're trying to do it and show it, and you got people sitting under the pavilion, we probably could make that work with not a major investment. But when you start doing out in the open and you're trying to overcome the sounds of nature and the cars going down the road and those kind of things, you've got to have a pretty good sound system that you can do that with, so that you're, you know, so you can spend a lot of money just on the sound system and not even talk about what you're doing for the image up on the screen and those kind of things. And so is it better to spend the money if you're going to do it a half dozen times over the next 6 years? You know, you do it once a year, you might be better off not renting the equipment and just, I mean, not buying the equipment and just renting and letting them do it. And as the equipment gets upgraded, you automatically have the upgrade. You don't have to go buy it because it's automatic. That being said, if you were really wanting to do 3 every year, then probably us buying the equipment becomes a smarter move. So it's how you want to use it, what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And, you know, we just have to look at it that way.
All right, I'll try and do a cost benefit analysis on both scenarios. And there were limits on the number of people that you could have,
Like 400.
Because of the licensing for the movie?
Yes, it
Okay.
was much more if we're over 400 people, so. And I think it's probably our target right around there.
I was gonna say, if you hit 400 people with it, depending on what you're doing, obviously you would have an issue just of, that would be an issue of the sound and the parking and
Right.
all of those kind of things.
May concerts. So Rose, you're gonna work on the,
Out again. Yeah.
okay. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We tried. And I'll get, the cost of the rock snake, and then we're gonna have to reach out to all the schools to try and get rocks painted. They have to be painted white first and then color on top of that. We need to figure out the sizes. I did have Kathy Cavalier, who is, you know, an artist of the Historical Society. She came out and looked at the size and what, you know, where we were gonna put it and that kind of stuff. So she had suggested using the white paint first. Whatever teachers I did talk to agreed with that, that'd be better. Then it needs a coating over top of the paint so that the sunlight doesn't
Seal it.
make them fade. There is some little bit of work involved, and I'll try and find a sponsor for it as well. Item 9.2, discussion and possible action about Eagle Scouts projects, and I did see the listing that Peter sent over. You have that too, Caitlin? Remember, Pete?
5 to 6 Bluebird boxes to be replaced at Meadow Preserve. Installation of information boxes at the parks. We threw out there, just as like a last minute idea, installation of a Gaga pit, Brookside. And then, Joe said that he, discussed Cub Scout projects with George.
All right.
I think that the Bluebird boxes would be a ready to go project because it's already been done. It's just a matter of replacing them. So the
Posts are
specs-
up.
Actually, I think the Scout actually did that
Is
2
that
weeks
done?
ago.
Okay.
I mean, like, I think it's actually, when you say done, I think it's actually done. At
Done.
least the one that did it for the Meadow Preserve. So maybe that we look someplace else. but it was,
The next one, that we agreed would be a good help was installation of the information boxes at the parks. And
Yeah.
some parks have them already.
yeah, that's been some that several scouts have done. That's how we've gotten almost all of those. So those are positive.
And we're trying to do whatever we can at Newbie, so maybe that might be our first target. And there's, Brookside does not have one either.
Correct. Greer Park, Greer Park.
Yes, yes.
And, Drexel Lodge has one.
Yeah, the Railroad Museum actually has a separate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if there's any events that the Cub Scouts might want to do as well, Joe. I know that they used to have like jamborees and that kind of stuff at Drexel Lodge Park.
Yeah, there's definitely one planned for May where they do their end of year. Closing ceremony.
Oh, cool.
at Drexel Lodge. I know that they're looking to do like some sort of cleanup project, but that I'm not sure. To clean up.
Well, could they join us on the stream cleanups?
I'm sure. Put that out there. When are those?
CRC is April, I think.
It's usually like late April.
And then DCVI, do you remember?
I feel like it's a little bit later in
Yeah,
early May.
yeah, they're pretty quick after one another.
Yeah, a couple weeks in a row.
And they might be better at the Drexel Lodge. One, because you can spread out a lot there, a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, a lot of dead limbs. Or they could have they could go for a hike after, through the beautiful trees.
Fortunately, Greer Park has gotten shorter and shorter each year because there really hasn't been as much. I mean, there's less trash every year to pick up, so that's positive. And Brookside, I think, as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year, I think
I
we
think
actually
the
had,
police department captains.
yeah, we actually had,
Brookside?
yeah, they did Brookside, and they did some trees, planted trees
Yes.
as well.
A good day.
So that's something else that they could possibly do is, I don't know how old kids, the Cub Scouts are.
Just through 5th grade.
So like third grade, 3, 4, 5.
The tree planting might not be.
Yeah, that might be.
That
it's
might
tough.
be good for high school.
All right. So item 10, public comment, no one's here, and we're adjourned.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
Good to have you back.